Now, we are going to take a look at ecology and the environment. Ecology is a branch of biology that studies relationships between organisms and their environment. Environment is the factors that affect an organism during its lifetime, so it can include biotic factors, meaning other living organisms, such as plants and animals, and abiotic factors, including energy, climate, weather, minerals, water, air, pH, salinity, temperature, soil, and sunlight. Using the snail darter, we are going to look at how organisms interact with their environment and how they are affected by changes in it. So the snail darter is a species of fish, more specifically a species of minnow, that is found in East Tennessee freshwater in the United States. It is part of an aquatic ecosystem, and more specifically, a freshwater ecosystem, as opposed to a marine ecosystem or an estuary. In an aquatic ecosystem, there are several environmental factors which affect organisms, including the ability of sunlight to penetrate water, the depth of the water, the nature of the bottom substrate, water temperature, and salinity. There are several types of freshwater communities: stationary water, meaning lakes or ponds, or moving water, which means streams or rivers. The species inhabits large creeks or deeper portions of rivers and reservoirs with gravel and sand shoals substrate. A habitat is a place or part of an ecosystem that is occupied by an organism. So the snail darter is located within a freshwater ecosystem, and its specific habitat is in those deeper portions of rivers, reservoirs, or large creeks, where there is a certain type of substrate at the bottom, with a specific type of water temperature and a specific depth. It was originally thought that the snail darter only lived in the Little Tennessee River, and there wasn't that many, the population wasn't that big, so it was accorded protection under the Endangered Species Act of 1973. So that originally was a routine policy decision by the political subsystem, but because it led to a major conflict with the TVO's Teleco project, which was a multi-purpose water resource development project that was to provide economic development, hydroelectric, flood control, and recreation benefits, the snail darter was thrust into the macro-political conflict. The issue here was that the Teleco project would alter the habitat of the river to the point of wiping out the snail darter, because it would block the snail darter's migratory route, so it couldn't get from where it was to where it needed to be in order to reproduce and in order to continue the population at a sustainable rate. So essentially, human interference with the ecosystem of the Little Tennessee River threatened to upset the delicate balance of the ecosystem and could have far-reaching consequences beyond the extinction of just the snail darter. So there was a lot of conflict about what to do here. The TVA wanted, obviously, to move forward with the project because of its economic benefits, but environmentalists were concerned that it would wipe out the entire population of the snail darter and could also have far-reaching consequences for the other animals in the freshwater ecosystem, because they're all connected and there's a delicate balance which keeps the ecosystem running properly. So, for example, eliminating a population would seriously alter the environment by disrupting the food chain or the sequence of organisms feeding one another. It would also interfere with the niche or specific functional role of an organism, because that organism wouldn't exist anymore, so it couldn't perform that vital role that it contributed to the larger part of its habitat and its ecosystem. The snail darter, as an animal, cannot convert sunlight into energy directly, and instead must rely on producers or other consumers for energy. The snail darter's diet consists mostly of snails and insects, which have consumed producers. In turn, the snail darter is preyed on by the banded sculpin when it is an adult, while the Salmotruda monrochrysops, Sadocendens, and other darters would prey on eggs and juveniles. Without the snail darter, those secondary carnivores on the fourth trophic level would then be without their main source of food and therefore without their main source of energy, which could in turn lead to them becoming extinct as well. It would also cause overpopulation of the snails and insects because one of their main predators would no longer be around to eat it. The elimination of a species within an ecosystem has really devastating effects for the rest of the ecosystem, which is why things like the Environmental Species Act have been put into place by the government to preserve ecosystems, to preserve species, and to make sure that the balance of everything stays the way that it should be in nature. In the end, it turned out that the snail darter also lived in a couple other places. So it wasn't going to go extinct. And they also, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, the Tennessee Valley Authority, and the Tennessee Wildlife Recovery Agency launched a recovery plan to preserve the snail darter by transferring the species to other river systems. So its conservation status has since been changed from endangered to vulnerable, and it continues living in environments, although no longer the Little Tennessee River because of the Tellico